Carrying over the question 1 which we left in the previous lesson. So now we are now on 1.2, solving simultaneous equation. Now we are given two equations as usual, and you have to look between the two equations. You take the simple one and you make it equation 1. So this will become our first equation, and this one over here will be our second equation. Now from the equation which is a bit more simpler, meaning it's less complex than the other, we're going to form equation number 3 from it. Now because x minus 2y is equal to 1, I can take the negative 2y to the other side and it becomes positive. Well, this means that x is equal to 1 plus 2y, or 2y plus y, or that doesn't matter. So they commute, they yield the same. So this is equation number 3. Now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to take equation number 3 and replace it in equation number 2. This is because I never used it before. Now if I take equation 3 and I replace it in equation number 1, my variables will cancel out because this and this is the same thing. It's just equation 3 is the arranged version of equation 1. Now where I see x in equation 2, I'm going to replace that with 1 plus 2y. Now let's see. Now I'm going to have 1 plus 2y squared. Remember that is x squared, so it becomes 1 plus 2y squared. And then minus 2 multiplied by xy. So I can say 2y multiplied by x. I can just arrange it in this form. And then when I see x, likewise, I replace it with 1 plus 2y. And then plus y squared. The last term is minus 9, and all that is equal to 0. So now let's see. If I FOIL this one, 1 plus 2y, I'm going to square the 1, it becomes 1. 1 multiplied by 2y is 2y. 2y times 2 is 4y. So you can also do this the manual way. You can expand these brackets and FOIL them one by one. And this one will be 4y squared. And now this one, negative 2y multiplied by 1 is negative 2y. And negative 2y multiplied by 2y is negative 4y squared. So I've got minus 4y squared there, plus y squared minus 9 is equal to 0. Now let's see. We're going to add like terms. The 4y squared and the negative 4y squared will cancel out. The y squared doesn't have a like term, so it remains. So this is y squared. Now 4y is a like term of negative 2y, and 4 minus 2 is 2, so this becomes positive 2y. Now 1 minus 9 will become negative 8, and therefore we now have a quadratic form of an equation. Now I'm going to factorize this. If you can't factorize, I can recommend that you use the quadratic formula. But if you can factorize, here's going to be y plus 4 and y minus 2. So this is it. Now y multiplied by y is y squared. Now if you take this back, you're going to get to the same step, that is the previous step. Now in this case, it means that y is equal to negative 4 or y is equal to 2. Now to get the corresponding value of x of each of the following, there's equation of x which is already in a simplified form, which says that x is 1 plus 2y. So if I want x here, when the value of y is negative 4, I can say y is equal to 1 plus 2 times negative 4. And I'm going to get 1 minus 8, which is equal to negative 7. This means that when x is negative 7, the value of y is negative 4. Now what about when x is 2? Well, the value of y will, when y is 2, the value of x will be 1 plus 2 multiplied by 2. And the answer there is 5. This means that x is equal to 5. So when x is 5, the value of y is equal to 2. And this is how we can solve this simultaneous equation. So this was 6 marks. Yeah, so this is how it was supposed to be done. Now I'm going to do the last part of question 1. And this was an application problem. Now we're given a photograph. Actually, we're given 2 frames. One frame is within the other. So now how are we going to do this? Okay, just to remind you of some things. Remember that when we are given a rectangle like this, the area of a rectangle with the length of y and the width of x, the area of that is given as length times width, which is xy or yx, however way you want to say it. So this xy. So now let us look at the inner part. They said to us that the inner part over here represents a photograph, and this photograph has got dimensions x and y. Now we are given the area of this photograph, which is the inner part. Now because the area is the length multiplied by the width, it means a is equal to xy, and a is given. The area of the photograph is given as 540 square centimeters. So we can say that 540 is equal to xy. Now if I say 540 equal to xy, that gives me equation number 1. Okay, so I can make one of these variable the subject by dividing by one of the variables. Now if I divide both sides by x and I divide both sides by x, well, I find that my y is equal to the 540 over x. Okay, so we can call this equation number 1. So it's just the same thing as the previous one. So now let's move on. Now let's go to the picture as a whole. Now they told us that the area of the borders, which is the area of this region over here, which I showed here, is given, and it's given as what? It's given as 208. Now if the area of this part is 208, the area of this part plus the area of the photograph gives me the total area. So this means that the area total is given as what? The area total is given as 208 plus 540. Now when I add those two, what do I get? Let's see. Now if I say 208, then I add 540 to that, I get 748. Okay, so the answer for that is 548. It's 748. 208 plus 540, the answer is 748. That's the total area, and that is centimeters squared. Is it centimeters squared? Now let's try to figure out the dimensions of the whole picture as a whole. Now because this part here, which I show in red, it's x, and this one over here is 2, and this one is 2. Now what is the total width of this whole thing? Well, it's x plus 2 plus 2, which is x plus 4, right? So the height of this, or the width, will be given as x plus 4, and the length of this will be given as y plus 4. That is y plus 2 plus 2, and the answer is y plus 4. Okay, so I hope that makes sense to everyone. Now let us try to see how we can determine this. Now because this is the width and this is the length, what do we know about the area of a rectangle? I just mentioned it, that it's length multiplied by width. Now this means that when I multiply x plus 4 and I multiply that to y plus 4, I must get a total answer of 748. Okay, now this is how it's supposed to be. Now let's try to do the distribution here and expand this. Now I'm gonna multiply x by y, and it's gonna give me xy. So this is xy plus x multiplied by 4 is 4x, 4 multiplied by y is 4y, and 4 multiplied by 4 is 16. So this is positive 16, and it's equal to 748. Now let's try to see something here. I'm given xy, right? So from the previous statement, what do I know about xy? I said that xy is equal to 540. So where I see xy, I'm going to replace that with 540. Okay, so xy, where I see xy, I'm going to say it's 540. So it's 540 plus 4x plus 4y plus 16, and that adds up to 748. Now let's see. We must prove that x plus y is 48 here. Okay, now let's add the like terms. The like terms in this case are the numbers, right? So 4x can be added to 4y. These are not like terms. So it's 4x plus 4y, and the numbers we can put them on the other side. Now if I say 748 minus 540 minus 16, the answer is 192. Okay, so I get 192 there. So this is it. Now let's see. I can divide by 4. Let's divide everything by 4, since 4 is a common fact. So if I divide everything by 4, I'm left with what? X plus y is equal to what? 192 divided by 4 is 48. And I have proved that. Okay, without even solving for x and y separately, but I've shown that x plus y is equal to 48. And this is what we were required to prove over here. So this is the steps which you can follow to prove that x plus y is equal to 48. And this was question 1 of June 2024, Limpopo. Thank you for watching.